Welcome to the Contagious Code podcast, where we dive deep into code, learn practical skills, celebrate the beauty of engineering, and eliminate imposter syndrome. I'm Tejas Kumar, and I've been building on the web for over 20 years at places like Vercel, Spotify, Zeta, and more. Today, I'm joined by my good friend Francesco Ciulla. Francesco is a treasure trove of information and also a success story, having a YouTube channel of over 100,000 subscribers and building a highly popular account on various social media channels, and really teaching and equipping developers effectively today. In our discussion, we talk about the fact that Francesco is a Docker captain. What is a Docker captain? What does that even mean? From there, we talk about his career as a engineer at the European Space Agency and how JavaScript and Python and Rust to some degree are used in the European Space Program. Finally, our discussion focuses on the pivot from engineering to communication and building a giant YouTube audience that he has. We talk through overcoming barriers to public speaking and content creation, especially as an introvert. Francesco is an introvert, and we talk about how you can do that. And finally, we pivot to DevRel, where Francesco works in DevRel at a company called Daily.dev. It's sort of the homepage for developers. And this company has grown significantly in terms of reach in a very short amount of time. At this point of recording, they've got somewhere around 80 to 90,000 Twitter X followers. And so we talk about protocols for growing your confidence and communication, as well as working at the European Space Agency and being a Docker captain, everything in between. This discussion is full of technicalities in and around communication and relationship building, and I hope you find value in it. Now, before we get started, look, I would like to offer this to you at zero cost. In fact, I do. And the way I do that is because the costs associated with building something like this are covered by sponsors. Let's take a moment and thank the sponsors of today's episode. This episode is sponsored by Code Crafters. That's Code Crafters. You can sign up at tej.as/codecrafters. What Code Crafters does is really cool, right? They give you tutorials on how to build things like Git or Docker from scratch, literally in a programming language you choose. And by building it from scratch, you can understand how they work and therefore upskill as an engineer. Code Crafters has paid tiers, but if you sign up with our link, that's tej.as/codecrafters, also in the show notes, you get a 40% discount when you start paying. You can just use the free tier indefinitely if you want to. So I'd encourage you to go there. That's all we have for the sponsors. And now for my discussion with Francesco Ciulla. Francesco Ciulla, it's a real pleasure having you on Contagious Code podcast. I know I was on your podcast some time ago, and thank you for returning the favor. I can't wait to talk about Docker and DevRel and content creation and all the things.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is the best pronunciation of my surname since I joined social media. And yes, so I'm super excited. But this also my episode should be out soon. So really looking forward for this cross collaboration, cross event and cross episode. So, and of course, best of luck with your podcast series.
Thank you. Yeah, there's nothing like great collaboration. And this podcast exchange. You're super popular. I mean, I go on various social platforms between X and TikTok, I think, and YouTube, and everywhere, every single place, you've got at least 6 digits of followers, right? You're a famous guy. So you maybe don't need any introduction, but in case there's some listener who has no idea who you are, can we do like a short introduction, maybe a long introduction for the people that don't know you?
Yeah, sure. This is fake news, by the way. And so I'm Francesco, developer advocate at Daily.dev, Docker captain, and I create content on different platforms. Especially now I'm very focused on YouTube. But let's say I was born on Twitter, on social media. Something more about me. I'm Italian, as you probably guessed from the accent. I'm 40 and I live in Rome. I'm also a public speaker. And what else? I like to engage and talk with people, Twitter Spaces, and much, much more. But let's keep going with this. I haven't worked in tech for all my life.
Okay. So wow, lots of different directions. Let's maybe start with the tech, and then and zoom out from there, because I do know I mean, your content creation career is so inspiring. You're about to get a silver YouTube Play Button award. Wow, congrats!
It's on its way.
And then there's your career. That is so cool. Yeah, and then there's your career path from, I think, doing volleyball to tech. So there's a lot, but let's start with tech. You mentioned Docker captain. let's start there. What is that? What does it mean to be a Docker captain? Where does that come from? And if somebody's listening and they want to become a Docker captain, can they do that?
Yeah, sure. First of all, it's not a title who I gave myself. Some people think that, like, I just proclaimed me as a captain. So I think it's a super cool name, but it's basically a sort of ambassador. And probably most of you know about like ambassador programs. Like very famous ones are like, GitHub Stars, like, or something like that. So it's basically an ambassador, and it's a free role. Some people even claim that say, like he gets paid to talk good about Docker. No, I love the Docker way before joining social media, way before getting in tech. So it's a technology that I always loved. So a Docker captain is basically a person who does something else, but in the meanwhile, let's say Docker recognized him or her to that they made something cool about the Docker community. It's more about the community. So that's it. I can talk about how I became a Docker captain. I will be super glad to do that. But this is exactly what you have. You can apply.
Yeah.
You know what you have to do. Google Docker how to become Docker captain, and I think there's a form now. I think they changed it lately, but you can actually apply, and they'll probably reach out and tell you if this can be accepted or not. There are not many in the world. Just to give you an idea, there are like 50 in the world. Like I was the only Italian Docker captain. Now we are 2. I'm super happy about this, of course. So just to give an idea of numbers, like there are not like thousands or 100,000 Docker captains. They are in like, I think in two digits. So
I was gonna wonder out loud if I would be the only Indian Docker captain, but just given the number of Indians in the world and in tech, I don't think that's
there
true.
are not many.
You mentioned some people accuse you. What? Out of 1 billion people, just 2 or 3 are Docker captains? That's
many,
a big deal.
This is why it makes
You
feel
mentioned
so
some
special.
people. You mentioned some people accuse you of being paid by Docker or accuse you of being like a self-proclaimed like Docker captain. I have to ask this question because I know a lot of people, especially like in the height of the pandemic, everybody had just really major mental health issues. And we all started to see that on social media. People just ended up like hating each other a lot more and so on. And I remember in the middle of the pandemic, there was a huge criticism of people who like self-proclaimed their expertise. Like there was a huge negative movement against what people on tech Twitter were calling grifters. And so when you mention this self-proclaimed accusations, I'm curious, like, have you, because you're so visible, have you faced that? What was that like when people go like, listen, what is this? Are you self-proclaimed? Are you a phony, basically? And have you had to navigate that?
I think I barely remember that, but my account was still so small that I was barely accused of this. I basically started being active on social media in March 2020. And also, one of the reasons why I became active on social media is that I was working not remotely. I was doing a commute. Spoiler, I was working as a full stack developer. And I decided to become active on social media. And after 2 days, we started the lockdown. And if you can remember, in Italy, we had a very strong lockdown. We have been one of the first countries who faced the lockdown. So we knew absolutely nothing on how to face it. And Italians are not that famous to being organized people. We are famous for something else. So yes, probably that's, we were very stressed. I was sharing many memes in that period because I think that this was, it was very important, let's say, to preserve our mental health in that period. You know what, Tejas? I think that whatever we do on social media will always be criticized. If we share too much technical content, we are criticized that we don't share enough personal stuff, so we are like robots. If we share just the personal things, then no, it's not enough because you should share more technical content and expertise. If you share memes, you are not serious. If you share serious, you should post more memes. If you share nothing, you are lazy, so you should share more stuff. If you share too much, you should share less. So, you know what? Let's do whatever we want. The only thing is we should let everyone else live. I think that the key here is to understand that everyone has their personal problems, personal issues. We don't know each other. I don't know someone else. Unless you are not attacking someone openly, for me, you can do whatever you want. You can post JavaScript, grifting tweets every day. I don't care. I consider you as a person. It feels strange for me to say this, but it seems that this is what we need to hear. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that you say that because there's this laundry. I know people who will, and I go to so many conferences, and what I often hear is like a lot of disparagement. Thankfully, people feel comfortable enough around me to do that, but it doesn't sit well with me because like nobody's being harmed usually. So I really appreciate that. You mentioned you became a Docker captain, just coming back to Docker, a lot longer before you got into social media, which I just found out was because you had all this extra time because you were not commuting to office.
no, it's
Oh no?
not correct. I was the fan of Docker, but Docker didn't care about me. So
Ah,
I was a fan of Docker since
okay.
2015. I got my first job in tech in 2017. I worked as a full stack developer for the European Space Agency. And then I became active on social media in 2020. And in 2021, I became a Docker captain. It was almost 3 years ago now. So this is the timeline.
So you started right. So you started creating content, and then they recognized you, and they said, "Hey, you should join this community program." That
It's
is cool. I think there's a takeaway in there for people listening. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, yes. So I think that so I started sharing. I was telling you that I was sharing memes basically when the pandemic happened. So after some months, I decided to go become more serious. Let's say that in the sense that I wanted to use social media also in a professional way because I found a reason because I didn't need like a job in tech. I was already working full time. So I think in August when I started making videos,
Yeah.
I started sharing Docker tips, Docker content almost every day. Well, I think every day on a daily basis. This like Docker noticed me, but I think the last drop was basically there was the DockerCon, which is like a yearly event for Docker. I watched the whole thing, and then I
Yeah.
made like a 20-minute recap of the 10 hours conference. I've been editing for like 4 days, literally, and this is the last
Oh
drop
my
that
gosh.
Docker noticed me, and they sent me an email and I remember because this was like a 5 years like goal. Like I would like to get noticed by Docker. And after 2 months, they sent me this email, and they told me like, Francesco, there is this Docker captain thing. Would be interested. I knew exactly what that was, and then we made a call, and yes, now I'm currently also since we are bragging here I'm not just a Docker captain, but I won a prize as the best consistent Docker captain content creator at in Los Angeles
Hey, that's awesome.
in October. So sorry to brag, but I mean I had like the Docker
No.
SEO like publicly telling this to other people. So it's a sort of recognition because sometimes when when you're creating content, when you're doing conferences, it's hard sometimes to see the output, to know the output. So having like
Yeah.
some official recognition, say, okay, I'm doing something good.
Yeah.
This dog
This
is
is no, this is great. We're here to celebrate you. I mean, that's okay. We'll edit it out. But we're here to celebrate you and appreciate you because you've accomplished a lot. I mean, for somebody who started in the middle of one of the most difficult times of humanity, creating content, 2020, and then to what how did you put it? You said this was your 5-year plan, but you in 2 months they reached out to you. That alone
yeah.
is also something to celebrate.
Yeah, so basically so just to give an idea, so in March 2020, when I started to become active on social media, I said, okay, in about 1 year, I would like to quit this job. Just to give more context, I was working as a full stack developer for the European Space Agency starting in 2017. I was a serious person before, just now I'm a clown on social media. But this, jokes aside. So basically in March 2021, I decided to quit this job. And also disappointing, I think, I don't know, my parents, because my parents, both of them are teachers. They are not like the entrepreneur mindset. And also, in Italy, there is this culture that, like, if you have a full-time job, you should never quit it. Like, that's like, you know the meme, like, that's the rule. Like, that's that's
Yeah.
the law. Like, you can do that. But the problem was only one. Like, I thought my life, like, okay, I want to take this direction on, like, sharing more things, doing more podcasts, like live events, sharing things on social media. The European Space Agency, even if it was a full stack developer role, it was bringing me in the opposite direction. Not just talking about the commute, but like all the private repositories. I can't share a single thing that I'm currently working on. It was basically like having like two lives, like Neo in Matrix. Like you during the day you do your coding stuff, and then you have just the nights. Probably you also want to sleep and have a life. So I said this is not sustainable. And now probably it's easier because Francesco, yes, okay, now you become a public speaker, you want to work in DevRel, but it was not easy to predict. Yeah, I think that one of the person who has been very super important, it has been my girlfriend, my partner, so she always supported me, like since the beginning. Like when I told her, like, I would like to quit this job to do stuff on Twitter. Basically, this was basically and I said, yes, of course, dude, go for that. I will support you. So it's, I think this can really change your life, like this thing, because we know that, we at the end, we always support each other, but the way she supported me has been mind-blowing. And also she helped me like in creating the first video. So I think this is, I feel like very lucky, to be honest.
That's so good. Yeah, that speaks a lot to me as well. Because as I started my business, I faced a lot of questions of, gosh, I don't know if this is going to succeed. I, at the time, and still am, the main sort of earner in my family. And so I spoke to my wife and I was like, should I do it? And she said, yeah, do it. But I said, what if we can't pay bills? She's like, we'll figure it out. We go live at my mom's. Like we'll do something. And so that then led me to, okay, you know what? We're going to be fine. And I started this thing and it was the best decision I ever made. It was very, very successful. So I relate to that. Let's talk about the European Space Agency, if you can. I don't know what NDAs you signed, but I would be so interested to hear.
I know where to stop. I know where to stop. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know what it was like, first of all, to interview and then to get the job. And then how did they use Docker? And what was the sort of the landscape of your full stack coding work there? What did that look like?
Yes, so I'll try to be fast, but this story is kind of interesting. So basically, I graduated. I got an email from the professor of my university, and just to give more context, 3 months earlier, I got rejected for an interview for an internship position. So, like, just to give an idea. So after 3 months, but it happens. Okay?
Did you? Sorry to interrupt. Did you study computer science at university?
Yes, I have a computer science degree.
Ah, okay, cool. Okay.
So, but you know, I failed this like free internship position because I had to start to work somewhere. It's okay. I mean, it's okay. Didn't feel super good that day, but it's okay. After 3 months, the professor sent me like an email and said like, "Hey, Francesco, would you like to work for the European Space Agency?" I thought it was a joke, so I replied like, "Haha, okay, like." Okay, what's the real topic like that you want to talk about? Like, it's because it was like impossible. So he said like, no, there is an actual opportunity. You know what? Like, say, and I said, okay, like that's so far from my like range of things. I say, why not? It's like I don't know, like you say like Francesco, there is they are looking for actors for Hollywood. I say, let's do it. Like I mean, what I have to lose. So I did the interview, and now. Like thinking about that, I remember that I was super relaxed because I was thinking like this is never gonna happen. Like this is like I was super relaxed. So I think they thought that was confidence, like this would be like being super confident during the interview because this is not gonna happen anyway. Like, but I remember that during the interview they asked me about JavaScript, Git, and Docker. So the interview went pretty strong, I would say. So. But still, like, I had zero expectations. Like, I came back home and said, okay, it was a nice trip. And the day after, I think after 2 days, I got the offer as in full-time position. So, in that moment, I realized...
Wow.
In that moment, I realized, okay, getting rejected 3 months ago for a free internet position was probably one of the luckiest days in my whole tech career. Otherwise, I would be working there probably for free or almost for free. This is a thing that I would say, if you get rejected, probably it can be one of the luckiest days of your career. So this is how I started working there. And Tejas, since I was working in sports, I've been a volleyball coach for almost 20 years. I always thought that like...
20 years? Well, how old are you, man?
I am 40, but I started working as a volleyball coach at 15. So basically, I stopped at 32. Wow. No, 18 years. I started very early. I was still doing high school, and I was still, I started very early, I say. But then I
Right.
also loved that. But for me, tech was like like programming was very scary and boring. I would say. I still remember me sitting on a chair. Like think about a person like who is used to work in a gym. Like I was that kind of coach that always do exercise because I was still also kind of young. So I was not like just
Yeah.
sitting. I was doing the exercise with with the players. I would say.
Yeah.
So sitting in a chair, I remember doubting myself, like, is this the right choice or not? Like, what am I doing like here, like sitting in front of a PC with a Debian distribution on my monitor? So this, and I remember that I was basically I couldn't sit for more than 1 hour still after like years in tech because and so I remember me going like to the toilet every hour. At some point, people thought like, okay, Francesco even has like some problems, like he's getting high every hour, or he gets some medical medical issues. I couldn't sit. Like I still have this issue now. It's getting better. Probably at some point I need to stand up even during this podcast recording. But this is basically how I got like 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 pushed hard into tech. I worked for the Copernicus project, which is basically Earth observation. So basically, the European Space Agency they sent the satellites in orbit, and then basically you get information about them. There is like a system, and despite what people think, that JavaScript versus Python language. I remember me like for fun, taking the JavaScript side. I worked more with Python, so people now think that like I'm not proficient in Python, but I worked I used that professionally for like 3 years. And it's funny when on Twitter they say like, Francesco, you should try Python one day. I can make Python tutorials, full stack. It doesn't matter. It only matters like the jokes that I make on Twitter, where I'd always take the JavaScript side. It's a character now. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I see some of your posts like "Thank you JavaScript" and "Are you eating JavaScript today?"
Yeah.
and this kind of thing. Okay, so the Copernicus project is this project that launches satellites, into space and then does like imaging. You mentioned your interview had JavaScript and Docker, and I think Python. So you're telling me they're using JavaScript to take images of the Earth from from space? What did it look like in the day to day? Like, what code were you writing?
Yeah, so nice. This is by the way, it was like 5 years ago, but just to give context about something like professional learning. So I was working mostly in 2 ways, like on the front end part, more like Angular and React, and the back end part, let's say, was more like in Python. So basically, like analyzing like data, like we have a lot of metadata. The problem with these pictures of satellites is that they are huge. Like every picture is like 8 gigabytes, and they take like hundreds per day. So every data set tends to like explode. Like you can't like it's so hard to deal with it. Like because think about like how can you even like think about making tests for stuff, even testing like on your laptop.
Yeah.
You want to test 3 images, you have 25 gigabytes like in your PC now. So it was
Oh
very
my gosh.
everything was hard. And some of the pictures, I don't know, many of you, they know that there is like a limit like in the size on some file systems, like 4 gigabytes, like on some old machines. So this can become quickly like a real nightmare. But yeah, it was fine, and it was a great experience, I would say. As a first experience, probably, I don't know, I want to say like one of the best ways, let's say, to get started for real. Because like I was like working from zero to like something which was like very, very high profile, I would say. So that's I think that really speed up like my whole process, I would say. So it's there's been like 3 very intense years, not many days off, but now my life changed totally. But I'm happy that I had this technical background for years, because now this is helping me so much. Now that I do like tutorials, other stuff, DevRel thing, podcast with friends. It's that solid background fundamentals I feel that it has been super useful. So otherwise, I don't know, just doing from zero to just DevRel, you can still do it. But in my case, I feel better of having some years of hard background of just coding. So now I can focus on doing fun stuff on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, you're actually probably more qualified than I am, because I never went to university and I never did any computer science degree. So I just want to make that very clear. You as a content creator, because I know that some people think, okay, content creators, like you said, you're just clowns on social media, and I want to really come against that here, because you are pretty qualified with your degree and then the space project and now content, well qualified to make the courses and all of that. Okay, so you're working with Python. What was the role of Docker? So if I guess what Docker was used for at the European Space Agency, it was obviously encapsulation, right? Everything's containerized, so you have these reproducible environments. Okay.
Yes. So yeah, I don't want to brag too much, but let's say that when I joined this company, now I tend to, but like I have to be objective. So we didn't use Docker since when I joined, but I was studying Docker like on the side. So at some point, the company, the big companies, they're very slow. Like, do you want to update the Node version? Okay, let's do a meeting, like 1 week of meetings to update the Node version from 12 to 13. Do you want to update a dependency? Okay, let's do a 2 hours meeting. So this is like how slow things were. So when we decided to think if we wanted to adopt Docker, it was like days. But you know what really helped me is that I was studying Docker on the side. It was my side projects. Like I was like studying this on my side. But at the beginning, we were not using Docker there. Then at some point they decided, and of course I was super happy about this. And so I helped, like also in the initial phases, also to the formation. But yes, basically Docker can be used for everything. And in our case, we were using to organizing things in a better way, I would say. So because of course they are complex systems. Like we were like a team of 200 people, so like it's not like a side project. It's not like that like on and the biggest thing it was that like when there are these big projects, you can't like just let's just create another database from scratch. No, because you have like petabytes of data, like years, decades of like systems. There were like a team of like 10 people just in charge to keep the system up. Let's say sysadmins. Let's say so just to give an idea. And so this is like more the things that I've been working on. It has been like very also great people. I've been connected to like people like international mindset. So it has been like very funny years. So yes. I remember when we started working remotely. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. I want to hear that.
Yeah, so when the only problem with this job, it was the commute. I was doing 3 hours of commute every day. So basically it was 15 hours of commute per week.
Oh my gosh.
So basically going to job, it was a part-time job, basically. And I remember this, of course without traffic. When there was traffic, you can't really predict. If you in Rome, beautiful city, but when there is traffic, there is like a proverb. We say like in Rome, you know the time you leave, but you don't know the time you arrive. It's a proverb, like. And I remember when we started working remotely, and they said, we'll be back in one week, and then it became 2 weeks because of COVID, of course, and then 3 weeks, and then 4 weeks. Then basically I never came back. Like I quit the job after one year. I remember that one day I had to bring the laptop back, let's say physically, because I was working remotely some months ago, and I ended up thinking like, was I really doing this every day? Like so, because our brain is powerful, and it tends to adapt to every situation. So after a while, you turn your brain off and you just go to your job. But then I realized that like with this time I could start a business. it's something that it really blew my mind. So this is one of the reasons. So that because I decided to, let's say, move more on the remote opportunities. Now I've been working remotely with many companies, including Daily.dev, a company in San Francisco, to work like this. It has been a game-changing thing for me. So it probably is not for everyone, But I like this approach.
Yeah. You were talking about how, gosh, did I do this all the time? With all this extra time, I could start a business. Indeed, what you could say, with all this extra time, I could grow my YouTube channel to 100K subscribers. Which is sort of what you did, right? With the time you got back.
Probably. Yeah.
Great. I think it's so cool how I want to call out how the stars sort of lined up, because you mentioned in the interview process with the space agency, there were questions about Docker. And just at the right time, this was your side project. So like everything came together so well. And I think that's really great. Last maybe technical topic, and then we can talk about DevRel, is Rust. You've been creating a lot of content around Rust. You've been going deep in Rust these days. I'm assuming this wasn't from the space agency, but this is now some type of focus in your life. Are you using it at work? Where does this come from?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the question. I was expecting for the last question. So I don't use Rust in a professional way at Daily.dev. Daily.dev, I have a full developer DevRel role. We don't currently use Rust. The thing is that basically I'm happy and I'm glad that I started a YouTube channel back in 2020, because I've kept repeating this to people. Say like, why should I start a YouTube channel? Because you never know. You never know what you can put on that YouTube channel. But if I have a good idea now, like, oh, now, nice, I can create a series about JS because there is a new feature. But then you have a YouTube channel with 0 subscribers, it will be tough. I mean, it's still doable, but it will be super tough, because at the beginning, it's hard. It's like, I don't know, I want to get fit now, but like it's harder to do this like like I want to run a marathon now, but if you're never trained, it's super hard. So probably you're tempted to just don't do it. This is why I've been advocating so hard for like having a YouTube channel anyway. It doesn't have to be 100K, but like having at least, some videos, at least you know how to record a video, at least you have a base audience, can be game changing. Because when I decided to start creating hyper-focused Rust content, it was January, December 2023, I already had like 20,000. Like I can do something. So that's the thing. And now I'm very focused on this for many reasons. First of all, I'm learning it. So I'm learning it, I want to teach it. For Docker, for example, it was not like this. I want to say that like I've not been always like that. Back in 2015, when I was learning Docker every day, there was no Francesco's YouTube channel. Like I missed a chance to put some. I still have some content now of Docker, but like I've been studying Docker for like 5 years, and I never created a single video. Like so now, I basically learned in private, and now there is a whole different approach, which is like, okay, I want to learn Rust, then I prepare lessons, I study it on the side. It's a different process. It's a difference between just, doing a travel and doing like a travel with also travel vlogging, videos. Basically, I'm documenting everything I'm doing in the process. It takes more time, of course, but I also get some benefits on the side. So this is what's happening now. Also, from a more technical perspective, there are for sure less Rust videos than JavaScript videos on YouTube. So there is less competition. So I want to be early, because maybe in 2 years, there will be like, a lot of Rust content on YouTube, probably. I also saw other people starting. So I just want to start a bit earlier, just take the the earlier train, I would say, because the next one could be too crowded. That's the reason. I'm also absolutely enjoying it. I'm doing this during my weekends. So, and I already released 10 episodes since January. So it has been like on a weekly basis. Wow. And I found a nice format for me, which I called the burger live stream. Not because I eat a burger on a live stream, but basically there are 3 parts.
I would watch that.
Yeah, of course, I know. But basically there are 3 parts. A chilled part, like chilling out. Then a super focused part, the burger, the ham, I would say, when I basically turn off the chat. And I basically record the tutorial live in one go. That's the thing. And then I go back in shield mode. So I have only one chance. It's like being, I don't know, an actor in a theater. Like I have one chance. And then I record it. I've been doing this for 10 lessons already. And then basically I have the recording, the footage, and 3 days later, I publish an edited version. I've been doing this for 2 months, and it's very effective. So people who can jump on live streams, they can interact. Sometimes I ask some questions. It's a different format. if people they miss the live stream,
That's
they can do this. Yeah.
no, that's so inspiring. That you do it in one take. This sandwich technique is so cool. And I'll admit I haven't yet watched one of those streams, but now I want to because I want to maybe learn something. You talked a lot about Rust. This motivation is also really cool, right? Because you have this channel and you it's twofold. You like it, so you want to learn it. You're documenting your learning so that others learn not just what you're learning, but how you're learning. And that's, I think, nobody's teaching people how to learn, but you're doing that now, which is so cool. And you're saying it's also the value is being early so that when Rust is probably already fashionable, but when it grows, you grow with Rust. I think that's your motivation here. You talked a lot about how you missed this opportunity when you were learning Docker. You were learning in private, and you see a lot of value in learning in public. Can we talk about that a little bit? For example, I'm assuming you came to learn in public, you came to see the value of that when you started creating content. Is that true? Or like when was the epiphany moment for like, whoa, I should document this and do it in public?
Yes, thank you so much. An amazing question, Tejas. So as I said, I've always been a teacher in my life. I've not just been a teacher of volleyball, but I also taught like math, physics, and chemistry. Both of my parents are teachers. One of them is a gym instructor, and one is a math instructor, my mom. So we've been talking about school a lot, like in my childhood at home, you can guess. So what the real, I'll tell you like what's the real reason. You remember the Francesco sitting in front of the Linux distribution on the chair at the European Space Agency. I still remember that the day I said, my teaching days are over. This was 2017, because now basically I don't need to teach anymore as a career, because you can be a software engineer, never do a lesson, never make a lesson in your life, never teach a lesson. And I felt a bit sad, to be honest, because I felt like, I don't know, like a part of my life, now it's done forever. I remember that. It was the very first days. So, I was happy for the new job. I said, okay, when like, I know that part of my life is over, and then maybe something else. So when in February 2020, I released my first article, not even videos. I was too shy for videos in February 2020. I felt like even very few people read the article, which was also very, very technical. I felt that, okay, now I can teach again using social media, using the internet. I know it sounds dumb now because, okay, obviously you can. But for me, social media, they were just a way to enjoy, so basically waste your time at the end of a tough day. This was the idea of Francesco about social media in 2019. So when I realized that I can actually, I do my job, and then I can go back and then I can create some content, I felt so good. I just say, okay, now I can go back on teaching. That for me is a mission, and only if you're a real teacher you understand, and you're also a public speaker, so you understand. So if you understand that that's what really make you feel better, and this is the reason when I decided to also focus. And then, of course, the video format, the short format, but it's more about the mindset of the teacher, the mindset of the content creator and creating content. So this is the main reason why I'm doing it.
Do you know why it feels good? And I maybe not, but this does require like a lot of introspection. But I'm curious if you thought about that. Why does this feel good? Is it just generational because my parents are teachers and it's like in my genes? Or is there something more there?
Yes, so thank you. So I don't think it has to do only with my parents, but because in my whole life, like I feel good when I can let you understand something, even if it's an exercise in a gym or a difficult math concept or a container concept or the Rust ownership. So it doesn't matter about the topic. It's about giving my knowledge to someone else. It's a bit harder to explain, but it's I don't know. It's like asking to a musician why are they playing an instrument. Like it's a very creative process that makes me feel good. So this way of transferring my knowledge, and it's fascinating that nowadays we can transfer the knowledge on the other side of the globe in real time. So that's the mind blowing thing. Before we were using just paper books. So that's more async, I would say. So that's I think the reason. And I feel lucky that I managed to basically draw my whole life in that direction again. Also, I want to add that by doing this, I also got back to conferences and for in person. And for a person who made like volleyball matches in stadiums, you know that when I go to conferences, for me it's like going back to stadiums and play and to play a match. So I have these vibes and I love them. So that's and it's crazy for me that I feel that now I'm going back on these things. And I always say that I have been always shy in front of the camera. I don't know. I know that you don't trust me, but I have some videos if you want to watch the Francesco in 2019. In person, I've always been less shy because I always worked with people in person. So my real blocker, it was like recording the camera, what I'm doing, and then probably I think I got over past that. It required some thousands of videos, but here we are.
Wow. Everything you said, I feel like I can relate to that so hard because this whole joy you talk about of like transferring my knowledge, I have exactly that. In fact, I have that so bad that I've been speaking at conferences now for like 12 years, but conference talks, typically in tech at least, are maximum 45 minutes, and usually 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm like, no, but I have more knowledge and that's why I started this entire podcast, is because like I that feeling of like I love doing this is so palpable for me. But it's not just like sharing the knowledge, it's gaining the knowledge. Oftentimes for episodes that I do, especially the solo lectures, like I have to learn something and understand it deeply, and I am not satisfied with myself unless I know the thing. The great scientist Dr. Richard Feynman said, the true indicator of, and I'm paraphrasing here, says the true indicator of if someone understands something is that they're able to communicate it in plain language. And so for me, this is like the thing. So for example, Markov chains in probabilistic analysis. I didn't understand it in enough depth where I could communicate it. I sort of knew it vaguely, but I took the challenge. I was like, I'm going to make a 2-hour lecture on this. And so it was so cool. Yeah, so all that to say, I fully hear and understand and relate to your story. For me, it's a little bit also more nuanced because I grew up very ill and I was told I'll never be on stage and no one will ever want to listen to me. And so there's alt psychology things there we can talk about maybe a different time. But cool. I'm happy to hear that. You mentioned learning in public is something that has served you well. It's something that serves you well today. And I can't help but think there's people listening to this, actually know there's people listening to this, who also want that. They want to have a great YouTube channel. They want to be, for lack of a better word, they want to be an influencer. I know that term is loaded and some people see it negatively, but you are an influencer and a great influencer. So I think that I'm using it positively here. A lot of people want to do that. They want to build their brand. They want to speak at conferences. They want to do YouTube. And you're saying learning in public is a great way to do that. However, some people are afraid of doing that because they can look maybe not smart or they can make mistakes. You mentioned you were camera shy, right? So how do you get over that and really do it, not just do it and fight yourself while being shy, but do it confidently like you do today?
Yes, thank you. And so I think that what made me realize that I think most of us agree. I think 99% of the people, they agree that if you create content, if you are more active on social media, you have a higher chance, like to get money, freedom, because this is where, like they say, the world is going. I'm not saying that everyone is doing it, but I think we can mostly agree that it can change your life. Even people not making videos, they say that it's a good strategy to make videos, which is mind blowing. Like I say, like, oh, like, this is a good strategy. Are you doing it? No. Because I don't have the camera. I mean, the camera excuse, it worked in the 90s and the 80s. It doesn't work anymore because we have phones. So stop using that. I've used all the possible excuses to delay my activity on YouTube. So you can't fool me. If I watch you, you can't fool me. I know. And my favorite excuse is I don't have time. That works like a charm. You can use this for decades. That's if you wanted to don't create content, use that excuse. That's amazing. So I think two things helped me a lot. The first one is to accept my nature. Like I'm an introvert by nature, and I don't know. So I hate. Usually I don't reply on social media, but when I see people like treating introversion as a disease that you need to heal for, I go mad. Like so, it's because we should really accept our nature, and when like for a period, I decided, okay, maybe I need to stop being like that, being someone else, like a charter, becoming more extrovert, becoming more communicative. You know, when I started to grow for real, even in terms of personality, of communication, and I said, okay, I am an introvert and I do this anyway, because that's me. And this is what made me relax. When you accept our nature, then we can work on the things that are really important, that really matters to us. So this has been a game-changing thing. And this is also why I started talking about introversion, introverted. I also read some psychology books, so I'm prepared now on the topic. That's and I think that's it.
For those listening, he's drinking water.
Sorry. Yes, and also
That's okay.
yes. So one moment, let me think. I forgot the train. 1 second. You will cut this part. I'm sorry.
You were talking about introversion.
Yes. Okay. And the other important fact, it was like, okay, I am shy. I'm shy in front of the camera, but what is more important for my life? To become shy and to be shy and fear the judgment of people, or to change my life? Because I always say this, even shy people, they get engaged, they get married. How can they do that? Otherwise, we would have been extinct like thousands of years ago. It was something that was like, could absolutely stop us for doing everything. So even if you are shy, even if you have some blockers, even if you have some limitations, at some levels, we can do a lot. We can still do a lot. So when I decided that it was my freedom, my my financial independence, the possibility, for example, in 1 week, I'll go to Japan for 15 days. This would have never been possible 10 years ago because of money, because of I couldn't take so many days off, and for many reasons. And now I have the freedom to do that. So this is how I changed my life, and now I'm happy because by putting some pressure of myself, and you know that as a former coach, I'm good also to put pressure on myself, on training and stuff. I'm using all the coach tricks on myself to push also myself to become a better version of me. And I think this is what made the difference. Like deciding what is more important for me, like putting things on a scale, like fear of judgment, okay?
Yeah.
But then you get so much. Truth is that you worked so hard that the odds are working in your favor at some point. So this is, I think, that really removed all the blockers. Spoiler: 95% of the blockers were just in my head. To say so, because sometimes it's the opposite. People don't really care, which is probably even worse. It's probably even demotivational, but that's true. Like we are all busy doing our own things, and that's why I always say that the earlier we start, the better, because then we have more time to improve, understanding what's wrong. We can remove even all our videos. We can start over again. We can change many things, but this is what really helped me to start for real. I'm really enjoying this podcast, by the way.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. Yeah. Thank you also for the compliment. I love that you said accept my nature was like the key that unlocked your thing. Because a lot of us, if I'm being honest, are just not honest with ourselves. I can give you an example. I sometimes don't exercise. And I'll say, oh, I'm tired. I don't have time. I'll make you talked about these excuses. I'll do that. And you know what? Those excuses don't serve me because they don't make me fit because I don't exercise. And if anything, the excuses actually hurt me. And so if I am honest with myself, accept my nature of, you know what? I just don't like this style of training. I just don't like volleyball. I want to go lift weights. Like I accept my nature. I don't like this. I'm not going to do this. Then I can move forward. Like you said, when you accepted your introversion, then you could relax and be like, okay, what can I do? And so I think there's a really practical takeaway there for literally everybody listening. If you are the blocker because you don't accept yourself, it's worth being honest with yourself. Maybe even the blocker is this: I'm not a great speaker. I'm not a good speaker. I have a funny accent, something like that. And so I'm not going to, but hey, if you're honest with yourself, if you accept the accent and then you become comfortable with it, where you even talk about it in videos. I appreciate this about you so much. You talk about it in the video. And by the way, I don't think your accent is funny. I think it's actually quite cool. I wish I had that. And so, accepting it, I feel like can remove a ton of blockers. I really appreciate that you said that. I also want to call out that you condemned this idea of introversion being a disease, because I've also studied some of the psychology here, and it's interesting. What I found out was people think extroverts are they have bigger social batteries. They have more. They enjoy the communication a lot more, and introverts don't. But what I found in the science was introverts and extroverts are the same. The introverts reach their limit faster. That's it. So the extroverts extroverts enjoy social interaction so much less that it takes a long time to fill their battery because they get very little out of social interactions, so they can go for longer. But introverts get so much out of like one interaction that you're like, hey, I'm good. I'm done. My battery is full. So they get more. That's why and I thought that was fascinating. I'm curious, you mentioned you came prepared with some psychology because you've read books. What have you learned there about introversion that maybe somebody listening can use to accept their nature?
Yes, I didn't read much, but I read some parts because I prepared a presentation about this. We are developers. I have a presentation called Introverted Developers on Social Media. So I made one of my first talks, my fourth talk. It was exactly about this. So if you want to know more about a topic, you should create a talk about this. So this is why I forced myself to learn. Otherwise, I would just be coding JavaScript and Docker. So I say, okay, let's read also some psychologist part. So so I agree with what you said. I also want to, let's say, debunk a myth. Even extrovert can fear judgment of people, like fear of judgment. Because, for example, I had a friend who was like a strong extrovert, and I asked him like, why are not you making videos like years ago? And he said, because I'm scared of people judging me. I said, but how can an extrovert person fearing judgment? And I understood that there were like two different things. You can still enjoying people company, but still scared AF to make videos because you still fear the judgment. Maybe you fear judgment even more because you want to be connected with people. You crave for this connection. Like an introvert doesn't crave for connection. And then I realized that they are two different things. Spoiler, I'm still an introvert and I still need to recharge my battery. It's just that now I am a jacked introvert. So now I can take it in 10 minutes after this podcast, I'll just do something else. And now I know that, for example, the stress of doing social activities and other stuff, I know some tricks, I do just a couple of things and then I recharge faster. It's like that now I have a faster charger for my battery. You have the new version. So, but that's the only difference. I don't feel that I absolutely change my nature. I got used, which is different by changing your nature and becoming someone else. A Frieza transformation. No, it's not like that. It's just understanding how do the things anyway, because I know that doing the things can bring some luck to me,
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, you accepted your introversion. You didn't change it. You accepted it and worked with it instead of against it. And I like that you say that because working against your nature is a full-time job. And so if you're doing that, if you're working against your nature, you cannot do new stuff and work with it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you mentioned as a coach, you learned a volleyball coach, you learned how to pressure yourself. And I think this is super valuable for people listening because you said I learned how to pressure myself to improve. And also you said you ask yourself, what is the most important for my life? Is it important to just feel scared and be nervous and not go on camera? Or is the risk worth it? I think there's some ties here because I know coaches understand deeply that when you put pressure on yourself a little bit, not too much that you burn out, a little bit of pressure leads to some adaptations where you're stronger, right? Any coach will tell you, challenge yourself so you get better. I feel like that was super helpful for your DevRel career and your content creation and all of this, as you agree. But there are some people here who maybe don't fully get that because they don't have the coaching background. And, some people have had very comfortable lives where they've never actually accepted challenge for one reason or another. This is not casting any judgment. It's actually tied to, and this is fascinating. I did some study around this. Nowadays, we have a clear mapping of like physiology, like portion. We know with high precision the portion of your brain that is responsible for either accepting pressure and growing or rejecting pressure and staying comfortable. So cool. It's called the AMCC. This is the whole thing. And so the cool thing about this brain region is it's trainable. So with a little bit of challenge, you get used to, okay, I can challenge myself and get better and get better. And it's also trainable in the other direction, where if you keep choosing comfort over challenge, you just slowly die. You develop an eating disorder, you become diabetic, it's a downward spiral the more comfortable you get, right? So it sounds like because of your coaching background, your AMCC is trained very well. I'm curious if you have any advice for how people can lean more into challenge and say, hey, what's more important? Is this challenge important? Is it going to benefit my life? Instead of just like giving into the fear and being comfortable.
Wow, today I learned something. So it means that I did something good. So I didn't knew these things so much in details, but this is more or less what I was doing without knowing it. So I would say that so I'm a huge fan of challenges. For example, I monetized my YouTube channel by doing 100 interviews in 100 days, like very similar to this. So I think a challenging challenge, okay, and if you do this, you understand. So you see, because if you don't do them, you don't understand. I was also still working full time for the European Space Agency, so I was mostly recording them during nights and early mornings. So I had I have still like the big dark circles of that period. So I think what really help is for me, for example, I'm very visual. So like I need to type things down, like what are my goals, what I have. And sometimes, and of course, I I throw them to the bin because it's like literally just speaking to myself. And as you said, like I think that being brutally honest with yourself is the first step. Like I am out of shape, or I don't know this. Like that's the first step, because without understanding which are your limits, you can't even try to climb the mountain and to achieve your goal. So brutally honest, like you can talk to yourself, you can find a way, but you need to be 100% honest. Like I'm not happy with my life. Like sentence of this level. Like maybe you are even afraid to say this to your closest friends, to your closest family. So like I'm not happy with my life. As I say, the classic example is like I am absolutely out of shape. I don't like my body. So like brutal things, like maybe you shake your brain and yourself, I would say. So that's the first step. I know it's a bit traumatic, but this can really help. I'm telling you what you should do, not that you have to, but at least now you have some steps. Yeah. And then usually what I do is something simple, which is on one side I type or I say whatever I have. Like for example, let's say that you are struggling for switching because you don't like your job, but you can turn this, like say, hey, I have a job. Like you switch your mindset. How many people would love to be in your position to at least switch a job? So it's like it's something. Like so, work on what you have. Yeah. I have water. I have bread, and I know I'm not saying this for granted. Like there are people who are literally like, especially like in the Western world, we give many things for granted just because we always had them. It's not like having like I don't know food to eat every day. So start from what you have. Stop complaining. These are like the first two things, and then on the other side, you write what you would like to achieve. Then maybe you not achieve everything because in the middle will happen your life. You will break a leg, you will get a tire flat, and maybe even worse. But at least you have a clear plan. You can visualize your life better because. And I'm saying this like me in my 20s. Like I was not like thinking about like this. I was just like doing all the things in a very energetic way, but without like a real plan of my life. So you're taking, the tip of a wise and old man now. But this really started to work for real, like understanding like what you have and what you want to achieve, and then you try to achieve some. You can have one. Yeah. I tend to don't have too many goals on too many things at the same time because otherwise it can become frustrating. For example, I've been just focused on YouTube, or I can be focused on quitting my job. So I have usually 1, 2 like things that I would like in my life to happen so I can focus more on the fewer things. So this is something that I've been doing in the past almost 10 years now. Before I was not doing that. I was just, living my life, doing all the random stuff, enjoying things, but without having like a direction. There are, there are some people who I envy that when they are 6, they already know what they want to do in their life. I want to be a medic. They become a medic at 20.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Okay. I cheer for them and say, yeah, like you have my respect. I was not one of them, also maybe because development was not a thing when I was 10. I wanted to become an astronaut. I went close, but let's say that yeah. So let's say that this helped me a lot in the past 10 years. So I hope that this can also help.
That's thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. So if I heard and recorded, and by the way, if I look away from the camera, it's because I'm like literally making notes. These are my notes from everything you said here. So what I wrote down was you have to be willing to be brutally honest with yourself, and you have to from there face your fears and grow. I think I'm a person, Francesco, who has really, 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 really negative self-talk. Like I have a voice in my head that is constantly saying you're not good enough, you're a horrible person, nobody listens to your podcast. I mean, like you have 3 listens. What is it? And like I'm sure this is not unique to me. A lot of us have this, and so I feel like somewhere there's this fear of being brutally honest. But indeed, everything you said, when I listen to that voice and I go like, okay, is it true? Does no one listen to my podcast? And maybe no one does, and then I have to face the truth like, okay, is this good? Is this bad? Do I want to improve? But having this objective handle on reality has served me very well. I do want to preface that, and I want to get your thoughts as well, because given that people can have really negative self-talk, I think it may, and this has been helpful for me with the negative self-talk, is to be brutally honest with yourself, but also in a kind way. And how can you do that? Well, for me, what has worked really well was, and this is rooted in science. So 1996, there was a really popular paper by Dr. Carol Dweck about this. Understanding that nothing is fixed, nothing is static. As long as you're alive, things grow and change. Your physical body grows, your brain grows, but also your skills, the intangible things grow. This is called growth mindset. And for me, with my really bad negative self-talk, and with then accepting that self-talk and being brutally honest, and combining it with growth mindset, for me, this has been the secret sauce. Because I do acknowledge, hey, I'm not happy with my life for whatever reason. I'm out of shape or something like that. Thankfully, I'm not so much out of shape these days. But I acknowledge that, and then I go, okay, but we can work with this. We can grow. Similar to you were talking about, like, accept my nature. I'm an introvert, but I can grow as an introvert. I can become a good introvert, as you are, right? You didn't become an extrovert, but you grew. So
thanks for
I would
this.
augment, or rather add to what you said. Yes, brutally honest is, you're welcome. Brutally honest is good, but it probably, at least for me, what has served me well is it needs to be coupled with this mindset that things can grow. And I think for you as a coach, you probably watched people grow in skill. So you maybe internalized this, right? Did you have that experience as well? Were you, I know you had your come up before 1996, before this paper came out, when everybody was thinking like things are fixed. So have you always had growth mindset in this case?
Yeah, thanks so much for reminding me that I'm old. So the growth mindset, I think that mostly lately, I would say. So before I would just, as I said, like living my life without thinking about the future. I know now it sounds strange, but like I was just, I had my job. I was during the summers. I was enjoying my summers. So I didn't have like a plan for my life, and that's why I think now that it's so important. I mean, maybe I woke up not that late, but basically I decided to switch career, got in tech when I was 32. So I was not like, the youngest kid in the room, I would say. I heard some people starting even later. But, and you know what? I realized that if we say that it's too late, it will become late really at some point. But if we stop saying like, okay, maybe, it's because I started my YouTube channel when I was 33. No, 37. Sorry, 37. Sorry, 37. Is that too late?
Wow.
Probably someone would say, no, it's too late. And now I'm here sitting on this, for example. So, I always say this, if one day we will be 80, we can really sit and say, okay, now I can, I'm retired, I'm here probably enjoying my life, and I can really say what I did in my life. But before that, we have a lot of time. Even we start at 50, we can do great things.
Yeah.
And I think that if we stop thinking it is too late, I'm an introvert. So if we stop thinking about what was before, then we'll probably do the better decisions. It's I don't know, staying in a toxic relationship just because we have been so long here. It doesn't make sense. If we think about, what is now, what I can do today, this is, I think, that really changed my life. By the way, I have a very super happy relationship. Also, it's our anniversary today, so the opposite. That was just an example.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned, this is so profound. You mentioned some people think it's too late. It's pretty wild to me, but before this paper came out, there was no it's too late. There was it will never happen, because it's too late assumes that there's a time domain. So there's a time where you can grow. But before this, people were just like, no, I just wasn't born this way. I will never be this way. It's fixed. I was born with a lower IQ than everybody else. And this is just me. I'm going to be a barber for the rest of my life. Isn't that, man, I don't want to live in that world. One more really interesting thing you mentioned was, even if you start at 50, it's not too late. This really touched me because I've been studying tech history a little bit. And there's this guy, his name is Andrei Markov. And he came up with what is today really the basis of machine learning and deep learning, and ChatGPT sort of comes from his work. And he published this paper in, I believe, 1906. So that's 120 something years ago. And that paper, again, was the foundation for all of this stuff, right? And so he did that. He published that paper at the age of 50. And if he thought, hey, this is too late, I don't know that we would even have things like ChatGPT today. So absolutely, I love that. It's not too late. Let's talk about DevRel. You mentioned this earlier. You mentioned you studied computer science. You have a strong technical background, and it has served you well in DevRel. I'm curious if you could speak to that, and we could maybe go from there into what even is DevRel, what do developer advocates do, et cetera, et cetera. So you mentioned DevRel has, you've been good at DevRel because of your technical background. My question is, do you think that's a prerequisite for DevRel? And maybe before we even answer that, we can talk about what DevRel is. Let's define DevRel for the listeners. The way I do it is I tell them it's so Apple, right? They have the iPhone, and the iPhone is a platform on which developers can build, but it's also a consumer good, consumers buy it. So they have consumer relations, and then they have developer relations, because both of these types of people use and build on the iPhone. So developer relations is like customer relations, but specific to developers. That's my spiel. I'm curious if you have a working definition for DevRel, and then we can talk about the technical background and so on.
Yeah, sure. It will not be a podcast about DevRel if we don't ask what is DevRel. I asked this to more than 200 people. I made a video on what is DevRel, but let's keep it, because also this definition it keeps evolving. So for me, it's simple. For me, a person who is in DevRel is the person in charge of a two-way binding between the company and developers with company. So it's not just a person shouting in the void, saying that the company is cool and nice and you should absolutely subscribe to the premium tier. By the way, Daily.dev is free, so this makes my life very easy as a developer advocate. But also, get feedback for people, get the honest feedback. Telling the CEO that someone told you that this feature sucks. So this is you will be probably the person in charge of the authentic feedback and authentic trust in the product. So this is, I think, that's the easiest definition. So getting feedback and, of course, sharing and, of course, making the company shine in the honest possible way. I will never force one of my friends to say something that they don't believe really about the dev. I try to, if we really make a big release, say, hey, our team of 25 engineers worked hard on this feature, so maybe if you want, you can help me out if you want to check it out. But for me, it will always be more important the trust and the connection that I have with that person. So this is what is DevRel for me. I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. So it's and I always loved. I didn't even know this was a thing. When I heard the developer advocate at the beginning, I thought it was. Avvocato is lawyer in Italian, so I thought that the developer advocate was a person in charge of defending developers when they put down production or they made some very dumb mistakes, and was the person in charge of defending them like a lawyer. So it's not exactly that, but let's say this was my thought. And but I think that it's something. It's very fascinating because it's a way to connect with people. And coming back on your question, like, do you need? Sorry. And going back on the
It's okay.
Sorry, yes. And talking about and talking about is a technical background necessary? I would say it can help a ton. It depends. I think there are different roles. For example, for some roles like community manager, or if you just want to organize, for example, events, maybe you don't need a strong technical background. To be honest, the biggest developer advocates out there, a clear example is Kelsey Hightower. Like people who have a big technical background, then they have all the fundamentals necessary for then doing your DevRel job more effectively. But I mean, this can be a debate we can talk about here for hours. But at the end of the day, the company knows what do they really need. Do they need just a person in charge of creating some events, or do they need a person who is, I don't know, they really need to understand the stack of the company and talk about that. They will have different types of developer advocates.
That's so great. I love that you say that, because oftentimes people talk about themselves or others and they say, I'm a DevRel at this, which that's always bothered me, because DevRel is a department. It's not a job title. What does that mean? I'm a DevRel, right? And in the organization, in the office of DevRel, you have subdivisions. And I love that you brought up that point. You have like developer experience engineers, you have developer advocates, and you have community managers. And each of these represent a different point on the spectrum, with developer experience engineers being probably they're pretty technical. They have to build out maybe features on the product or things like this. And community managers being the other side of the spectrum, where, look, I've worked with some of the best community managers in the world. I actually believe one of my good friends, her name's Eleftheria Batsu. She's a community manager
her.
I work closely with. I've worked closely with her for
Big fan of her.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, same. And she will admit herself, she's like, I don't have the strongest technical background, but I tell you what, I can build a community and really nurture it. And so I love that you say that. And in case, again, you're listening and you're thinking about getting into DevRel and you're not sure because you're not sure if you have a technical background or not, I love that you say, hey, this is accessible to a wide variety of people. That's really, really cool. You mentioned Daily.dev is free. I find this interesting because, first of all, let's talk about what Daily.dev is. I want you to clarify that for the listeners. But second, after you introduce Daily.dev, I wonder if it's free, then what is your deal? Because usually DevRel is, at some point, money is on the other side of it, because it's a job post in the capitalist company that is motivated by profit. So if it's free, what's the model there? Is it ads, etc.? So maybe we can start by talking about Daily.dev and then how it being free affects your DevRel work.
Yeah, sure. So I've been working at Daily.dev for, let's say, almost 3 years now. I have to say this, that it's a kind of unique company, and I'm not saying this because I am a developer advocate here. And basically, it's a platform for developers. So it's a platform specific developer. They also have dev in the domain, and it started as a blog aggregator. So let's say it's start basically to get from hundreds of sources, filter them, put them like in a cool feed that you can also personalize. And that's, this is what was like David would say in the early stages. They also have a sort of emotional story. I can make a very quick version. It started as a side project of one of the founders. So there is this story that like one of the 3 founders, one of them told like, oh, it would be nice to have this. It started like as a Slack feed. And then one of the founders said like, oh, it would be nice to have an app that does this. And Ido Shamoun, let's say the first developer and CTO at Daily.dev, in 2 days he created the MVP. And so on Monday, he shown his co-founder, his friend, I have this, I created this. Like, it was really a side project. And now it's something different.
Wow.
I joined when we were like 5 or 6 people. Now we are more than 30 people, close to 30 people. We raised a seed round. So like there is like a founding. And talking about the free thing, yes, it's a sort of unique because usually developer advocate is also, sometimes they work like hand in hand with sales. We don't have a sales, we have a marketing department. We don't have a sales department because we don't sell anything so far in Daily.dev. We have some ads, but basically our model is more to have funding. So we are trying to put as much free stuff as possible. We make free events. So we have the free event today, for example, on YouTube. So like we do monthly events on Twitter, on YouTube, and to be honest, I admire it so much. It's a model that it works for them, and we have been around for years now. And now we worked so many different features, the community features. Now we have videos. Like we embedded the Daily.dev with YouTube videos on the platform. So don't sit around that it's just a blogging platform anymore. Otherwise, the CEO will be upset. So now it has been really growing. And to be honest, this thing of the YouTube videos thing has been one of the features that I've been waiting the longest, because when I joined Daily.dev, I was already on YouTube. Also, in parentheses, I interviewed the CEO of Daily.dev like 8 months earlier before I got the offer. So this interview with him probably like made me absolutely super stand out. And so that is basically let's say more or less also what Daily.dev does. We have more things coming up in the next months, of course, but this is the model. And I love this because like the fact that I can just say go on Daily.dev and just try it out makes my life really easy. We really it's true. Like so it's something that you can test it out. You can prove me wrong. Like so. So that's the thing, and basically a platform for developers, by developers, of course. So, and I just want to say this, then I'll shut up. That we have you can leave us a feedback like for the platform. It's funny because sometimes we get a feedback like, "Hey, I got this error, and here is the debugging thing," or like, I saw that here the padding is not optimal, so we get like UI things, or like we get like the error, like people are like debugging things, or if we change something in the platform and say, hey, I have a bug, they don't even think that this might be like something that we change intentionally in the app. So it's funny to read the feedbacks of experts and developers that are not let's say common users on a platform. They go into the details, like they debug with the debugging tools and all the stuff. So it's super funny to read.
That's so. Is Daily.dev open source, since it's by developers, for developers, etc.?
Yes, we have a huge part which is open source. You can go GitHub. Also leave a star. I think we have in 10 stars we should reach 16,000 stars. So you can check it out and let us know. We have also the docs that I created from scratch, and that's also a full Docusaurus open source project. It's a lot of stuff, but it's. I want to say this, that usually we have, by using Daily.dev, you have some haha moments that will not get you back. So it's like, because it's harder to understand, because sort of it has a unique position. So like I don't know, Hashnode, Dev.2, we know what is. Don't confuse Daily.dev with Dev.2, otherwise we'll become upset. We use Dev.2 as a source, but we are not Dev.2. But that's why it's hard to define it, because it's a sort of unique platform for developers. You can think about this as it is. We have also cool swag. Look how cool this swag is. So.
The coolest. Okay, so it's an aggregator of platforms like Dev.2, Hashnode, etc. It ingests all this data and gives you a personalized homepage, I believe, right? Like a front page. That's so cool. I'm curious if we can talk about the financial model. And again, you may not have liberty. This just say no, and that's fine. But you mentioned you give away a lot of stuff for free to developers, and you rely on funding. I have to assume this funding isn't like you raise a new like venture capital round every time. But is it the same model as my podcast basically? Like I want to give all this stuff away for free, and so I have partners like companies like Code Crafters, right? They're just like, here's an affiliate link. We'll fund your pod. Some sponsors are like, okay, what are your studio costs per month? Okay, 4,000. Here, we'll just cover that. And so is that the type of funding you're talking about, like where companies pay but developers don't?
Yes, so I don't know in details. I'll tell you what I know from my side that I can share because we made like public announcements. So basically, yes, we have some few ads on the platform, but they don't cover like all the costs. They will not make all this possible, but it's good to have to make a model sustainable. So it's nice to have. And yes, sorry. So, and we rely. This is basically the main model. So we don't charge the users. They never pay a single cent for now for using it. So it's we have a big let's say big. It's becoming big as a use base, like in hundreds of thousands of users who like download it so far. It's good. We have amazing reviews on the Google store, on the Google Chrome store, and so on. So that's it. Like usually, it's something that you can people can actually try, and just let me know. Like I've been open DMs, or just we have also active on social media, other stuff. So we're waiting for your feedback. We have something called the Dev card. Basically, you can share like the status of your daily dev. And we did this, for example, we did a revamp some days ago. So it's also cool to share with your friends. You can also get, if you are a nerd, you can also add this to your GitHub repository with a GitHub action, and it becomes, it gets refreshed every day. If you are at that level of like nerdish stuff, but it's cool. It's super cool, and yes, that's the thing. And I also want to add that.
That's great.
The company culture people are working with there and really outstanding. Like we do 2 company gatherings per year. We did once in February, and basically we all meet and we eat a lot, of course, but it's a great opportunity. So we are full remote, but twice a year we meet in person, but like just for a few days. It's mostly to have some fun and have this, and this is really strong. It really strengthens our company culture, the connection with people. So even if we make a call, we know what the people meant, how tall they are. We understand like things that otherwise, I don't know, if it'd be like 100% remote, I don't know, maybe after 5 years, you don't even know how tall is your colleague, or maybe, I don't know, how they behave when they are in person. So I think this has helped a lot so far. I want to say that the company and the people are working very hard. Engineers are absolutely mind-blowing. Marketing, design, over the top. Check it out. I'm not in charge of the design of Daily Dev. No worries.
That's awesome. Is Daily.dev hiring?
So we have a page called Daily.dev/career. So we can leave a link somewhere. Currently, I don't know, but when we'll do it, we have a links. But we have a dedicated page, so you can just check it out. Okay. I don't know, maybe in 2 weeks when we will publish this episode, and when we'll publish it, we'll have new positions. We have had like open positions for a while.
Good.
We go in cycles, also because like we went, as I said, from 5-6 people to almost 30 in 2 years since I joined. So we hired some people. Of course, and but yes, so you can check it out.
Good. Yeah, I asked because you made it sound so good that I'm sure this is the next question on everybody's mind. Wow, they meet twice a year. That's so cool. Cool. Let's continue talking about DevRel at Daily Dev, especially because it's a free product. How do you measure the effectiveness of your work? What are your KPIs as a developer advocate at Daily Dev for a thing that's free? Is it we have this many readers, we have this many subscribers, this many people are using our GitHub action? Is it just like awareness metrics? Because I have to assume this doesn't like turn into money because everything's free. So is it? Yeah, I'm curious if you could speak to like the matrix for performance.
Yeah, sure. So from a we all know that this is never an easy point for developers because we are not moving stones. Otherwise, it would be easier to have some good metrics. But we are trying to increase awareness of a product. So we have numbers. I have numbers in terms of mostly social media growth. Look, I'm in charge of all the social media of Daily.dev. So Twitter, YouTube, TikTok,
Wow.
Instagram, LinkedIn. So I'm in charge of all the social media. So we track the growth on social media. And of course, I'm responsible of the growth on social media. It's also going very well lately. So I'm very happy with that. So that these are like the metrics, and also we make collaborations, and what we have, let's say, as a group KPI and numbers. Basically, we want to get more users. So this is our our main goal currently, and of course, I'm in charge of understanding like how many people we can bring. So basically, we are in awareness mode now. So probably this is how we can measure the work now, which is hard because we know, and also sometimes we know how social media can be crazy, like in terms of likes, followers, and things that happen. We make a monthly event, for example, on Twitter. So, for example, we can see the growth on the social media there, and these are like, let's say, the most like the things that we use the most to see at least if the DevRel guy is doing good or not. So lately it has been going very well, and so that's the thing. But it's probably harder than for other departments when it could be easier. So that's it.
Yeah. That's so cool. I think this idea, and by the way, for those listening and who are thinking about measuring DevRel, this idea of a monthly event is so smart, because I think it was Laurie Voss, who was formerly the head of data at NPM, right? And is now working at, I believe it's Llama Index, in a similar role. So he said, really the best way to measure things is on like 28-day intervals, because that's when you have enough data to like track changes over time. I believe I'm remembering that correctly. I may not be. And so if you do this monthly event, then it becomes very simple to measure if you're in awareness mode, because you're like, okay, last month, what was the attendance? This month, what is the attendance? And ideally, that's an upward trend. That's such a cool trick. I'm going to use that actually when I now try and have DevRel and measure its growth type work. You're in charge. I didn't know this. I didn't know you're in charge of all the social media of Daily.dev. Man, that sounds like a huge responsibility. I'm curious, and we'll maybe start wrapping up here, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, on behalf of all the listeners, like, what are, per social media, so social network, so for LinkedIn, for X, for TikTok, for YouTube, what are one or more algorithm tricks you use? And I realize I'm asking you to give away your secret sauce. Feel free to not, but I'm sure many people. For example, I heard this about X, where I've seen a lot of like influencers on X. What they'll do is they'll paste a link, but they'll like add a space between like .com, because the theory, at least, is that X like deprioritizes external links. Other people will do this like link in reply thing. So there's like clearly algorithm tricks going on per social network, and it's probably your job to know this. Again, I fully understand if you're not wanting to teach this because it is a competitive thing, but I'm sure people listening are interested.
Yeah, my job and all my activities, they pay my mortgage and my bills, so I don't care. I don't have like a $999 course on how to grow on social media. I think I'm the only person who has like some followers who never made like a grow. They buy my course to grow, but I can share my honest thoughts if that's okay for you. So first of all, we could make at least 2 hours, 3 hours for each platform. So I'll try to just share whatever comes in my mind. I think that I think the first important step is to understand the platform. Platforms are not the same. If you make a similar content on different platforms, you can have absolutely different outcomes because of the audience. So we should first of all understand the audience of YouTube is not the audience of TikTok. It's not the audience of Twitch, even if we can make a video on all of them. So we should understand this force. And this is why, for example, some people, they crush it on Twitter and they are not good at making videos, or the opposite. The people I know that are strong in social media is because they understood that platform. Now, if you have time, you can even switch. For example, now I'm switching more on YouTube, but I still did some stuff on Twitter. I think that, yes, for the link things, it's true, unless it starts getting a lot of traction. So if post with a link starts to get, and nowadays, by the way, they change this every week. So we are on the 19th of March 2024. Usually the link is deprioritized unless it gets many clicks. So if the post gets many links, in that case it gets even promoted. So sometimes I still put the link in the tweet if I know that this will get attention. And for example, if you want to pin a tweet, in that case you can leave. I would recommend to have the link, because in that case you leave the pinned tweet on the top. It makes sense to have it with a link if you don't know, you want to share a YouTube video or a specific link to something that is not in your bio. So in that case, it makes absolutely sense. From the empirical experience, putting the link below, it's probably the best solution. I also saw some people even making like some studies about this, like after 2-3 months. And this is like the thing, the cool thing. I think leaving the space is a bit cringe, but I mean, you can do it. I think I did. I'm sure that I did it at some point, because I made 115,000 tweets. So probably you can find a tweet of Francesco leaving a link with a space. Maybe it was an experiment, but usually I don't go with that approach. But I mean, you can try different things. I would say to don't rely too much on the conversion on Twitter. And now I need to be, as I said, brutally honest. People on Twitter, they are there in that moment because they want to mostly have fun. There are some people who open Twitter to learn, but there are not many. It's like you go to a nightclub, probably people are not reading books probably there. Maybe you can find one person who is reading a book in a nightclub, but that's not the common thing. So that's a similar thing. So I'm not saying that Twitter is a nightclub, but it's a place where people go to learn, to read some controversial things or to understand something. But and this is why, for example, the conversion from Twitter to educational content is not that good. For example, I have a way better conversion from my Dev.to or Daily.dev, of course, because there people go there to learn. They are in learning mode. So I would say that adapting to the platform is probably the best solution. And what I'm a huge fan of is sustainability, because I know so many friends who burn out on social media. That for me it sounds crazy. I mean, I can understand the people burning out because they've been coding too much. This should not happen, but I can understand. For me, burning out because of social media, it scares me. Maybe because I'm old. When I was 16, I was playing hide and seek. So for me, social media will always sound as something sort of new. Like I was not there. I was there when they were not there. So I don't need them. I don't have this huge addiction to my life that I have to do this. I can see them as a tool. So I would say try to make to play the long-term strategy. This is the best thing, I would say. So for example, on YouTube, I released, I think, around 700 videos, 800 videos, 300, I think they are unlisted in 3 years and a half. So I played the long term, and now, and it's, let's say, it's something. As I said, on Twitter, when the people, they ask me, how did you grow on Twitter? As I said, I did 115,000 tweets. So probably some of them, they were nice. So it's, I should understand the platform and then act accordingly. For me, the number one thing is it's okay to stop being active on a platform for a period, but it's more like focusing on it. And then, of course, about the specific platforms, I think I can only give tips on Twitter and YouTube. Last tip is a tip for LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the platform to brag. Whatever achievement you have, post it on LinkedIn. It always goes well, even better than Twitter. So LinkedIn, platform to brag about all your achievements.
Excellent. Well, listen, I feel like we just now, by opening this topic, opened Pandora's box, and we need another gosh, another hour and a half, 2 hours to dive into social media, and maybe we'll do this in a future episode. But Francesco, listen, I'm so honored that you would come on this podcast and share the Docker Captain thing, community work, the JavaScript work and Python work you've been doing at the space agency, and how you even got to work in space, the space industry, to DevRel and community, and the entire journey, including the psychology tips around accepting your nature and so on. This has been an absolute like treasure trove of information and practical takeaways for me, and undoubtedly for the listeners as well. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on, and maybe we should do this again sometime.
Thank you so much for inviting me. You have been an amazing host. I wish you the best of luck with your podcast. Follow this podcast everywhere. Share this with your friends, because if you get some value out of a piece of content, don't just say, okay, it was nice. Make the extra step, because creating all these things, it requires a lot of effort, not just for the guest, but also for the host. So check it out, share it with your friends, and let people know more about all of this. Best of luck, man. I see that you are doing great things, not just in public speaking, but now also this new thing, which I think it's a great idea also to connect with people. Just so now you know more about me, and now I know more about you. So this will, I think, will strengthen our connection. And yes, that's it. We are done for today. So we have been going for almost 2 hours. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining my discussion with Francesco Ciulla. I hope you feel empowered, especially if you're an introvert, to be able to create the content you want and express yourself the way you want and grow your audience if that's something you're interested in. If you were curious about Rust, JavaScript, and Python, and especially the applications of code in the European Space Agency, I hope this also sheds some light on that. In any case, I hope, as with every episode that I hope that you get something out of this that you're comfortable learning, using, and sharing with others. And in fact, if you are, then I'd encourage you to share it. If you're learning from and or enjoying this content, I'd invite you to like the video if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe to the channel, and maybe leave a comment. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, I'd encourage you to leave up to a 5-star review. This stuff really helps discoverability for the channel, and really is a signal to me of whether this is worth something, and whether it's worth, frankly, my time. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to keep making this content if nobody cares, right? So if you leave a rating, subscription, comment, whatever it may be, that'll be a nice signal to keep going. As always, thank you Codecrafters for sponsoring this episode and this show. And again, if you want to sign up and learn how to build things like Git and Docker from scratch in a language you want, that's tej.as/codecrafters for 40% off if and when you start paying. Thank you for joining this episode. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. And thank you for your interest in engineering.